What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and today we are going to continue to look at the Great League in the GamePress Go Battle League Gauntlet. Now, if you're not already familiar with the Gauntlet, you can find a link to a video in the video description that explains what is kind of going on here today, and there's also an infographic that breaks it down as well. But today we're going to be looking at the performance of two of our competitors, and that is Lorma96 and Manaholix. So we're going to be looking at Lorma96 first off here in this video, and Lorma has a pretty interesting team. Both of these guys are leading with Umbreon, so we're going to be seeing Umbreon leads throughout this entire video. Lorma is backing that up with two anti-water Pokemon, a Meganium and a Galvantula. So to kick things off here, we are going to be looking at my battle against Lorma, and this is one of my favorite battles in the whole gauntlet here, and I already have 3 points. You can check out how I got those points in the previous video, but for now we're going to look at my battle up against Lorma here. So Umbreon against Azumarill. Lorma's going to go ahead and switch, and obviously I don't want to be against a Galvantula. I try to switch into Shiftry on the Discharge, but I don't quite get it, so I felt like I needed to shield. But this was a wonderful bait from Lorma because I have to fear this Bug Buzz. It's doubly super effective. They're going to go ahead and shield my Leaf Blade, and then they're going to go ahead and shield bait me again here. So they know that I am in fear of this Bug Buzz, and I let them just gain way too much energy trying to catch the Discharge at the beginning of this game. So they're going to shield my Leaf Blade, and then just watch how close this is. I am just barely not able to get to another Leaf Blade, and then they do Bug Buzz me here. So Shiftry is definitely going to die to this one. Doubly super effective. So I go into Azumarill, and I just immediately use an Ice Beam. Maybe I could have built up some energy there, tried to build up to another Ice Beam against this Meganium that now comes in from Lorma, but instead I just try to switch to the Registeel, and you see I do switch when the Frenzy Plant is up, but obviously Lorma knows that I'm going to switch, so they just hold off on the Frenzy Plant and Earthquake me. So super well calculated here from Lorma. I'm going to use a Flash Cannon up on their Meganium, and they're going to pull off a pretty sick move here. They're going to build up to a Frenzy Plant and then dip over to the Umbreon. So from here, I do get a Focus Blast off on the Umbreon. The Umbreon is then going to Foul Play me, and I am going to be able to take this Umbreon down with my Azumarill, but the Meganium already has a Frenzy Plant loaded up. So from here, once the Umbreon takes down my Registeel, I bring in this Azumarill, and I don't go for the Ice Beam right away. I'm thinking I need to get this Ice Beam, I need to get enough energy that I can Ice Beam down this Umbreon and then immediately ice down the Meganium that Lorma has in the back there. So I Ice Beam, and I actually still needed a little bit more energy, but as Lorma pointed out to me, Meganium would have won the CMP tie regardless, so he really did not leave me any avenue for victory there, just outplayed me at every possible instance, and I said this is one of my favorite battles, and that's exactly why, because Lorma just anticipated all of my switches, and they had perfect play that left me with 0 outs, and that is with losing the lead. So really well played there by Lorma, and I thought that was a great video to kick off this video here, a great battle to kick off this video with just some excellent play by Lorma96. So now we've got Lorma versus Cuddywow, and Lorma is going to be leading with the Umbreon up against a Haunter. So this Haunter is going to want to get out of there as soon as possible. And we actually see Lorma, one thing I brought up in the last video too, Lorma anticipating this switch also brings up their switch menu right away. So Cuddywow switches into Azumarill, and Lorma immediately counters that switch by switching into Meganium. Azumarill obviously has the Ice Beam as a coverage move, but Meganium can indeed win this matchup pretty easily. Those Frenzy Plants are super powerful, and Meganium's going to be able to take the Umbreon down before it can get to another Ice Beam. So then we see the Haunter come back in, and Haunter basically has to shield everything, but it definitely has to shield a Community Day move like Frenzy Plant, and Meganium has a bunch of extra energy in it as well. So that's 2 Frenzy Plants coming off the Haunter, and Haunter's going to double shield so that it can farm the Meganium down and then hope to carry with the Haunter. But unfortunately, when Umbreon comes in, again, this is just a horrible, horrible matchup for Haunter here. So Cuddywow is again going to switch out, and Lorma will match that switch again just because Umbreon is going to be so good at shutting down that Haunter that you might as well switch it out. So we see a Frenzy Plant from Cuddywow, and both players here are shielding these Frenzy Plants, so they're wasting a similar amount of energy from each other. But bam! That is a big Bug Buzz. Bug Buzz is just such a powerful move here, and Haunter will win the CMP tie. That's one of the reasons that you play Haunter. Lorma is actually going to use his second shield here to keep the Galvantula alive, since it did have a charge move ready to go, and Lorma even still has their Umbreon in the back. This one wasn't particularly close, with the Umbreon just being able to completely shut down the Haunter. Cuddy was forced to switch, and then Lorma could capitalize on that switch pretty well. Next, we're going to look at Lorma versus Manaholix, and this is the 2 featured battlers for this video here, both with Umbreon leads. So we've got the Umbreon lead Ditto matchup here, and both of these, I mean, I don't know how this is really going to go. Both of these players are just going to trade last resorts and not really use shields here. So they are just going to trade turns, chunking each other. I would think that Manaholix is inclined to switch here because Manaholix has 2 counter users in the back, that Vigoroth and that Deoxys, and both are also reasonable safe switches. So I imagine we'll see Manaholix switch into one of the 2 of those, and then try to get the other one paired up against Umbreon later to potentially take it down. But for right now, it just seems like they are super content. And then we do see Manaholix bring up the switch menu here. So it looks like that's going to be a switch into Vigoroth met by a switch into Meganium from Lorma. So we're going to see a bunch of body slams. I guess that Manaholix brought out the Vigoroth first because shields are still up, so that definitely favors the Vigoroth. Vigoroth is going to be shielding some Frenzy Plants here, and his moves are a little bit cheaper. So here comes another body slam, and this will get another shield here from Lorma. And then another Frenzy Plant we see from Lorma. So both of these players are trading 2 shields, which definitely, I think, favors Manaholix here. Manaholix is going to build up some energy, and he is able to farm the Meganium down. The Meganium was just barely not able to unleash a Frenzy Plant, so that is huge. And now Lorma is in a really tough spot here. Lorma does have a shield, but they have to fear this Bulldoze, and obviously the Umbreon can't really do anything. They switch into the Umbreon, it just gets counter-farmed down, and then the Vigoroth has enough energy to body slam again. So the Vigoroth's just going to go with a pair of body slams here to take out the Galvantula. It probably also could have just gone with a Bulldoze, but yeah, takes out the Galvantula, and Manaholix actually sweeps that game 3-0. So it was looking pretty even there for a little while, but there was not really a way for Lorma to deal with the power of that Vigoroth. So we're going to take a look at Manaholix's other battles now, and let's look at the players that Lorma also just played against first. So first we have Cuddywow, again Haunter against Umbreon. Cuddy is going to switch over to Azumarill, and Manaholix is going to switch over to Deoxys-Defense form. Obviously Deoxys has the Thunderbolt for the coverage on Azumarill, But even more importantly here is now Manaholix has 2 Pokemon in the back that will just completely cancel out Cuddywow's Haunter. So we do see a big Thunderbolt. That is a bunch of damage. And then Manaholix is going to go ahead and shield this Ice Beam. And Cuddywwow is not going to shield this upcoming Thunderbolt here. Cuddywwow puts a lot of stock into his shields for Haunter. So he is going to come in with Haunter with 2 shields, try to farm down and see if he can manage to sweep from there. Tries to farm down the Deoxys though, and just barely can't clear it. The Deoxys is able to get off a Rock Slide and claim one of Haunter's shields, and then Manaholix brings in Umbreon. Umbreon foul plays the Haunter, which costs Haunter another shield here, and at this point we know that Cuddywwow has used 2 shields on a Pokemon that isn't even good in the matchup. So we do see a Shadow Ball. It's not very effective before Cuddywwow switches to Meganium, and that is also going to take a foul play here from Manaholix's Umbreon. Manaholix then does decide to switch, but he didn't really even have to. The Vigoroth would also just line up so well against Cuddywow's Haunter that he didn't really even have to switch here, but he does. He throws out some counters and he throws out a Body Slam here, and then I think with one more counter, yeah, just a tiny sliver, he is able to counter the Meganium down. The Haunter is going to come in and Manaholix is going to try to build up to a Bulldoze, but Haunter's going to win the CMP, so Vigoroth says, you know what, I'll just use a shield here against this Ghost-type Pokemon, and then we can Bulldoze it down, and Haunter is left defenseless. So pretty good showing there from Manaholix. Obviously, winning the lead was pretty important there too. But the biggest thing is Cuddywwow used 2 shields for a Pokemon that really didn't matter, definitely overvalued that Haunter there, and Manaholix just played a solid game despite that. So now we're going to look at my game up against Manaholix, and I am going to be able to win the lead here, Azumarill versus Umbreon, but Manaholix's team is still really good against mine. My team is really bad against counter users in the back, and Manaholix has 2 of them. So they safe swap over into the Vigoroth here, and I just have to accept that they switched Pokemon because I really don't want to immediately line up either my Shiftry or my Registeel up against this Vigoroth. So I'm going to take 2 Body Slams, and then I am going to switch into Registeel, and I don't even catch the Body Slam, which is super important there. Vigoroth just builds up to the Bulldoze, and I thought, you know what, maybe this is a bait. I don't shield, and I take a huge chunk of damage there. Then I'm going to go for a Flash Cannon, and that is going to get a shield from Vigoroth, but they're just going to be able to counter farm me down here before I can get to another Flash Cannon. So I go back into Azumarill now, and this Vigoroth just has a bunch of energy over me, and I am looking pretty silly here. So I will go for an Ice Beam, and even this is not going to be enough to let me farm the Vigoroth down. The Vigoroth is going to get to 1 more Body Slam, so I am going to have to shield this one so that I can unleash a charge move at the next Pokemon that comes in here. So I go for a Hydro Pump on this Deoxys-Defense form. And then I do believe I will switch into Shiftry immediately after that. So it's 1 shield to 1 shield, but this Shiftry has got to deal with a Deoxys and an Umbreon now. These Leaf Blades do get to deal a lot of damage, but it doesn't quite take the Deoxys out. So I'm going to go ahead and shield this Rock Slide, and then Manaholix is going to switch over into Umbreon, and I've got a bunch of Leaf Blades here, but they are going to be able to shield these Leaf Blades, and they probably only have to hit me with 1 big last resort. And I will win this CMP tie, of course, before going down, but I would have to get off I think 3 or 4 more Leaf Blades, probably 3 more Leaf Blades to take this Umbreon down, and the last resort basically finishes me. So yeah, then they can Snarl me down. I wasn't sure if I got 1 more Leaf Blade, but they Snarl me down, and then they just foul play my Azumarill and kill me dead. So yeah, their team, despite losing the lead, it's a pretty cool team here from Manaholix with these double counter users. All 3 of Manaholix's Pokemon, you know, he's not playing the typical flyer, anti-flyer, grass kind of trio. He's not operating in that paradigm at all. He's running a dark Pokemon, a normal Pokemon, and a psychic Pokemon, but both the normal and the psychic types are really fighting types that are both good safe switch options, and then Umbreon as just a good bulky lead, trying to catch some things there. So pretty cool team here from Manaholix, and there is an example of where Manaholix teams really does shine. Speaking of Manaholix's team really shining, here we have Manaholix up against T-Forgery and Umbreon up against this Raichu. Obviously, this Raichu has got to switch out immediately. Switches out to Umbreon, and Manaholix is able to capitalize on that with one of his 2 counter users here. Doesn't want to bring in the Deoxys because he'll take super effective damage back, but Vigoroth gets to deal a ton of damage with these counters. He builds up to a Bulldoze before unleashing some Body Slams. So Tyler is not going to shield these Body Slams here, just going to deal some damage back with these Foul Plays. But Vigoroth just has a whole bunch of energy still left over here, so builds up to another Bulldoze before offering a Body Slam yet again, and that Body Slam is going to take it out and leave Vigoroth with some excess energy still. So when T-Forgery brings in the Alolan Raichu, that is immediately going to take a Body Slam, and it is going to be able to farm the Vigoroth down, but then we see Manaholix go back into Umbreon. So this Wild Charge is going to deal a little bit of damage, so Manaholix does shield before T-Forgery brings in his own Vigoroth, but now Manaholix, he will fire off a Foul Play before switching into Deoxys of his own, and now Deoxys is resisting this counter damage while dealing super effective counter damage back. So this is, you know, I called them 2 fighting type Pokemon before, and they're 2 fighting type Pokemon, but one is weak to fighting type moves and the other resists fighting type moves. So definitely a different, different typing there makes this matchup pretty lopsided in Deoxys' favor. And T-Forgery is going to see if he can't clean it up with the Alolan Raichu. He will have to shield this Rock Slide that the Deoxys has been able to charge up to. And then I think we will see him try to farm the Deoxys down. So we see a switch over into Umbreon, and then Umbreon's going to shield, and Raichu has no health left. So we do see a Grass Knot here, but Umbreon will do a Foul Play. I think a Snarl also would have done it here, but there you go, a super effective Foul Play to finish off the match, and yeah, that is just a really, really unfair fight there, a really good matchup for Manaholix, and he finishes it pretty cleanly. For our last battle, we're going to look at Manaholix up against Raven, and unfortunately for this one, we only have it from one perspective, so we're going to be watching from Raven's perspective here. Raven running the Meganium plus Azu Steel team, and one thing that I kind of just talked about is Manaholix's team doesn't really operate on the traditional flyer, anti-flyer, anti-anti-flyer paradigm that so many teams in the Go Battle League kind of consist of. Manaholix's team totally subverts that, and that definitely throws battlers like myself that aren't as experienced off their game. And I think that throws Raven off a little bit here too. Meganium is actually pretty good against Umbreon. It loses the 0 shield, but it wins the 1 and 2 shield matchups. So Manaholix is going to switch out over into Vigoroth now, and Vigoroth is going to eat a big Frenzy Plant here before Raven switches into Azumarill. And this is where I think Raven makes a pretty huge mistake. Now they don't have Azumarill to line up against Manaholix's Umbreon, and they are going to take a bunch of damage on this Azumarill. So they take 2 body slams pretty quickly, and they decide to try and farm this Vigoroth down. But they just barely don't get it here. Vigoroth is able to fire off 1 more body slam before dying, and that is going to get one of Raven's shields. Then Manaholix brings in Deoxys, and Raven is going to fire off a Hydro Pump, but then they don't switch out. They just stay in against this Deoxys and take the Thunderbolt. The reason that they didn't really switch out here, they could have safe swapped to Meganium, but Meganium has a bunch of energy already, as we'll see here, and they didn't want to waste that energy, so they go into the Meganium now, fire off a Frenzy Plant, and that's going to deal a decent amount of damage to the Deoxys, and both of these players are now at 1 shield apiece. So it's a pretty close matchup here, a full health Registeel against 2 half health Pokemon, but the Deoxys does line up pretty well against the Registeel, and you can see it just deals so much damage with its fast move. So Registeel is going to go for a Flash Cannon, and Deoxys is going to shield that just so it can deal more counter damage, really. So we get then another big Thunderbolt on this Registeel. This one is going to go unshielded plus some counter damage. And right before this Flash Cannon comes out, Manaholix actually switches back into the Umbreon. Now they are going to be able to beat Registeel to a charge move here. So there you go. There are Manaholix and Lorma's performances in the GamePress Go Battle League Gauntlet. Both of these players utilizing some pretty different teams here, I would say, and definitely making use of that Umbreon as a leading Pokemon. So there are 2 totally different directions that you can go into with Umbreon as a lead. And yeah, some pretty cool games. Like I said, even though I lost that first game against Lorma, he just played it so wonderfully that it's been one of my favorite battles throughout this entire tournament. So definitely appreciative to Lorma there for kicking my butt. If you want to see some more butt kicking in the next video, one of these players is going to get eliminated. Somebody is not advancing to the Ultra League. So definitely stay tuned to see who that is, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see all of the battles in all of the leagues throughout the GamePress Go Battle League Gauntlet. That's going to be it for me, guys, for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace!